Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Sage 50 Canada webinar on the year-end 2024. My name is Ivana. I'm going to be your host today, and we're also joined by my colleague Dorcas.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dorcas.
Dorcas is going to be there to help me at the end of the presentation to answer all of your questions. So let's get started. So what we're going to talk about today is, let me see. Well, first I'm going to talk to you about the year-end center. Then I'm going to talk to you about installing the software update to give you tips to make sure that the installation runs smoothly. And then we're going to talk about the year-end, so both the payroll year-end, but also the fiscal year-end. I'm also going to present you some resources. And as I said, at the end, we will answer all of your questions. One of the things you may notice is that the microphone is mute. You also don't have access to the chat, but you can go in the QA section to send us all of your questions. So let's start with the year-end center. What is the year-end center? It is the resource we created based on the questions that you are asking us, usually in prior years in January. So the year-end center is a website that we've created and in which we put the answer to all of the questions we received. So it's going to be the best place to go to prepare for the year-end and to guide you step by step through everything that you're going to go through during this time of year in the software. I'm now going to talk about the 2025.0 updates. So some of you may have already done this update. So I'm sorry you've already been through this, but I'm going to give you tips about installing the software, and it's also going to be valid for any future update of the software. So there's things you need to check before doing the update. First off, what you should know is, yes, the software is named Sage 50 2025, but you can still install it even if you haven't finished 2024. So we're in December right now. You're probably entering the information still in November and for December. Even if you're still working in 2024, installing the 2025 update will not change anything in your data or the dates in your software. So you can absolutely install it already. There's a few things you need to check before doing this update. And one of those things might be slightly different for some of you compared to prior updates. It is to check the primary user email address. So as you may have noticed, even if you're not using any cloud features in the software for security purposes requested to add a primary email address in it. This email address is requested during the update, so you need to make sure you check which email is used as the primary one in the file. You will also have to check that the update is ready to be installed, and you will need to back up your data. So the newest part is to check the email address. So here is how to check it. You can go into setup users and roles, and directly on the line sysadmin, you will see at the end an email address. The sysadmin is by default in the software the primary user. You may only have this user, or you may also have other users. In any case, during the conversion of your file, it is the email address that appears on the line sysadmin that will be requested. If for any reason, this email address is not correct. Maybe it's the email address of a former employee. Maybe it's an email address you haven't used in a couple of years. And you need to change this email address. And when you go into modify user, the email is grayed out and you're not able to change it. You will have to contact us so we can help you change it. So it is a step, and that is going to be extremely important to make sure that the update can be installed properly. The next step is to check for product updates. So you can do this by going into help and then check for product update. If the update is ready to be installed, you will have a message like this, and then you can just close the software at the end so the update can be installed. You may also have a message that says that the update hasn't been downloaded, and you will have the option to click on download, and then you can go back a couple of minutes later to see that you have this page right there. The final step before doing the installation is to create a backup. You should always, before making any big changes in the software, you should always make a backup. So to do so, you can go into File, Backup, and then you will be brought to that page where you can choose the file name, the file location, and then you just have to click on OK for the software to run the backup. Once all of this is done, you can close the software and you will have a page asking you if you want to install the update. You can just click on Install Now. The 2025 Wizard installation will open, and it is quite simple. You can just follow the wizard. In most cases, you just have to click on Next, Next, Next until you get the installation page successful page, and where you can click on Finish. When you click on Finish, the 2025 software will open. You can just select to open your file, and you will be brought to upgrade it. During the upgrade, the software will also make another backup. I recommend, even if you've done the backup before, keep this checked. We never have enough enough backups. So you just have to click on Start on this page. And this is where you will be brought to enter the email address and the password I mentioned earlier. Once this is done, this software will be updated, the file will be updated, and you can just keep working on it and keep entering the transactions you were working on. So I showed you all of those steps, but I'm also going to make a demonstration so you can see everything run directly. So I'm going to switch. You should now be able to see my software. And so my software is in the 2024.2 version, but this is valid even if you're currently using a prior version of the Sage 50. So as I said, the first step is to check the email address of the sysadmin. So in this case, sysadmin, the email address is the correct one I want to use. But if it wasn't the correct one, I will need to go in modify user. Unfortunately, this is grayed out. It could be not grayed out and I could update it right there. That would be perfect. In my case, it's grayed out. So if I needed to update it, I would need to contact the support. So in my case, the email address is correct. That's perfect. I'm going to be able to use it to do the updates. Then I need to check that the update is ready to be installed. So I go into Help, check for product updates. And if I click on this, the software is going to think for a few seconds. There we go. It already downloaded the update, so that's perfect. The next time I'm going to close the file, the update is going to be, I'm going to be prompted to install the updates. Final step is to make a backup. For timing reason, because I want to go through your questions at the end, I'm not going to actually do a backup in front of you because it could take a couple of minutes. but I've already done my backup, as you can see earlier. What I would recommend there is to make sure you name the backup something that you recognize, and also make sure that you don't overwrite any prior backup. So when you do a backup, always change the name in there. The location is the correct one for me. You probably have different locations. That is perfectly fine. Once this is done, I can just click on OK to do a backup. So let's say that my backup is now done. The only thing I would need to do is just close the software. I can use the X at the top right or go into File, Exit. And I'm going to be prompted to install the update. So I'm going to click on Install Now. And I'm not going to do another backup because I've already done it on this one. So let's see what happens. So I have the security software on my computer asking for authorizations. Okay, so I have the license agreement. I can read the agreement and then accept it. And then I just have to click on Next. I'm also going to click on Next. I will go back to this icon a bit later during the presentation, but I'm going to keep the shortcut activated. So I'm going to click Next. And then the software install itself. Okay, so the installation is successful. I can click on Finish. And now the 2025 update is gonna, the 2025 software is gonna open. You can see I have a new icon there and also a new icon there. So now I can just reopen my file. And I'm prompted to do the update. So I'm just gonna click on Start. It does another backup. Software went really fast through the conversion steps. And now I'm being prompted to log in with the email address. So I wrote down the email address I need to use. I'm just going to connect to it. There we go. So I'm logging in. For security purposes, you probably all been through this. If you haven't, you will be prompted to set up a two-factor authentication. So this is mandatory for security purposes. I'm gonna go get my code in my application, but you can also set it up with a phone number. And then, so this is my security code. I'm gonna click on continue. And there we are. We are now in the 2025 software. We're gonna have a few pop-up with the, maybe just one, pop-up with the installation notifications. And as you can see, I am now in the 2025 version of the software. So this is all you need to know about a workstation installation of Sage 50. So there is different situations if you're working with a network installation. So a network installation is where you have multiple computers that are connected maybe to a server or to a main computer. In cases like this, what you need to know is that the server or the main computer will have to be updated before you're able to work on the 2025 software. If you don't update it first, you will have a message like this that will appear that says that the connection manager is not installed on the server, or maybe another message that will say that the message will directly say that you need to update it on the server or the main computer. Once the file has been updated to 2025, all of the workstation will need to work in 2025. So the installation needs to happen on every workstation. But even if you have multiple users, again, only the primary user, the sysadmin, will be able to convert the files. So you will have to get the primary user to connect with their sysadmin profile and with their primary email address that is set up in the file. So why should you install 2025 now if it's not done already? Because this is the main update of the year. So this is the only update of the year where the server also needs to be installed. So if maybe you need your IT department to do this installation for you, it would be now. So that might take a few days to get everyone set up to install the 2025 update. So this is something that should be done now, because if you are using the payroll module, 2025, the Sage 50 2025 will be required to get the next, the 2025 tax tables. So if you're still working on 2024 and you're creating paychecks, to get the proper payroll information in 2025, you will have to install the 2025 software. So if you require a few days or to set up to get a certain user in the office to make this update, the earlier you do it, the easier it's going to be for you. It also, if you encounter any issues that require to contact the support department, on our side, if you've been a Sage customer for a few years, you may know that the support department gets really busy with all of the year-end questions in January. So contacting us in December is easier, and it will be a lot simpler to just prepare in advance to make this installation. So thank you for following me with all of those installation steps. If you have any questions, don't forget to send them to us in the QA section so we can answer them by the end of the presentation. Also, if I've been a bit fast for you during the presentation, I'm sorry, I'm trying to to manage the time so we have time for your questions. But this presentation is recorded and will be uploaded a bit later during the month. So now I'm going to switch to the next part of the presentation, which is to prepare for the year end. So what is a year in Sage 50? There's actually two types of years, the fiscal year and the calendar year. Let's start with the calendar year. The calendar year is, as its name indicates, it is a year that goes from January 1st to December 31st. It is used for everything payroll related in Sage 50. So what it means is that when you're going to start a new calendar year, all of the year-to-date payroll information will be reset to 0 for your employees. So it will start over to start the new 2025 payroll calendar year. The fiscal year is different. The fiscal year follows your business accounting period. It could be the same as the calendar year, or it could be completely different. What happens when you start a new fiscal year is all of the revenue and expenses accounts are going to be closed to close the financial year. So all of the net loss profit is going to be moved to the return on the accounts, and you're going to notice that all of your revenue and expense balances are going to be reset to 0. So the calendar year is everything payroll related. The fiscal year is everything else. So let's start with a checklist of what you need to do to close the 2024 payroll year. The first step is going to be to check the data integrity. I'm not going to have time, unfortunately, to go through all of those steps, but I'm going to show you in the software where you can access this information. The second step, and that is usually the step where we have the most questions. So the second step is to print and check the peer report. The peer report is the review of, it's the pensionable and insurable earnings review. And so it's the report that can be used to estimate EI and CPP contributions, but it can only be used at the end of the year once you've posted all of the paychecks for the year. If you were to check this report before you've posted all of the paychecks, it will be inaccurate. It will give you information in there that is just incorrect and will probably say that there's issues when there's probably not. So let me give you 2 examples. Let's say you have an employee that was set up for 12 pay periods. They're paid monthly, but they only started mid-year. The peer report will not be something that you can look at for this employee because they haven't received the 12 paychecks that were set up. So they are paid monthly. So they should be set up as for 12 pay periods. But unfortunately, because they haven't received those 12 pay periods, those 12 paychecks, the peer report will not be a resource that you will have to use, that you will be able to use. Same thing, if during the year you had an issue with the settings or you had to make some changes and you changed the pay periods in the settings for an employee, the pay period will present an issue. And that is something, because you've changed the pay periods, the calculations were changed, and they're probably a part of the time, part of the year where the calculations were wrong. So I'm going to go through a report because this is something that is complicated to understand. So I'm going to go in the software to show you exactly what I mean by all of this. Once this is done, you will have to back up your data and start the new calendar year. So what I mean by peer report. So first off, you can access it in the software by going into reports, payroll, and then year-end review right there. You will have to select all of your employees, select the correct year, and then it will show you the CPP and EI information for your employees. So this is what the peer report looks like. You have a column for the gross pay, the pensionable earnings, CPP, QPP, CPP, QPP discrepancies, CPP2, QPP2, CPP2, QPP2 discrepancies, EI insurable earnings, the EI that was deducted for all of the employees, and the EI discrepancies. So as you can see, everything looks okay in this column, everything looks okay in this column, but I have some discrepancies for the CPP, QPP. So for some of them, you see it's a few cents. This is just a rounding issue. So instead of looking at this report with all of those rounding issues that don't really matter, we can modify the report by going to modify report options. And we can just decide the amount of the discrepancy we're okay with. I'm just going to leave it at $1 right now. It really is just a rounding thing. So if I change it to not see the discrepancies below $1, we can see I have 2 employees right there where the software is telling me there's an issue for the CPP QPP. So I will have at the end of the year, before doing the T4, well, the end of the year or beginning of the next year, but before creating the T4s or RLV1, I will have to investigate this issue. To do so, the best thing to do is just to click on the employee name right there. It will open a second report that will show you all of the paychecks posted and given to this employee for the year 2024. So right there, I can see I have 5 paychecks given to this employee. It looks like it's a monthly setup. And if it's a monthly setup, the employee is probably set up for 12 pay periods. I can check it by, again, double-clicking on the employee name. If I go into the income section, I can check the employee is set up for 12 pay periods, which is perfect because it's a monthly payment. So this is correct. But because the employee only started working for me during the middle of the year, this information will not be accurate for me. This is probably correctly set up because I have a lot of employees that are working perfectly correctly. And because this amount, the number of paychecks doesn't match the number of pay periods, the software is not going to be able to calculate directly if there's an issue or not. So what in that case, what you will have to do is maybe check with your accountant, most likely check with the CRA, but in this case, this should be perfectly fine. So now I can check for the second employee. There's an issue. Okay, so it looks like, again, this employee is paid monthly, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so they did receive 12 paychecks. Let's go see how they are set up. Okay, in the income section, again, they are set up for 12 pay periods. So this also looks correct. So let's go back in this report to see where could be the issue be coming from. And I can see that the CPP, somehow the CPP calculation, the gross pay was the same during the year, but the CPP calculations changed. What this indicates, because the gross pay wasn't changed, but the CPP was changed, there might have been a software update done at the wrong moment during the year, or there could have been a pay period settings change during the year. So the current calculation, currently the calculation seems to be correct because I am set up for 12 pay periods, for 12 paychecks that were given, but there is a discrepancy there. So it looks like the issue was that at some point during the year, it was incorrectly set up. Unfortunately, those paychecks were given to the employee, so we cannot adjust them. Adjusting them would just create issues for both the employee, your business, and also with the CRA. You cannot adjust paychecks that were given to an employee. So in cases like this, the best thing to do is consult your accountant, but most likely you will have to check with the CRA because this is, in this case, it looks like an overpayment. So that would be an amount that you would have to be refunded. The employee will be refunded when they declare their T4s, but your company would also need to be refunded to get back the employer portion that was set up, that was given and remitted. The main thing to do from this information is that you need to make sure that when you start 2025, you don't have those issues. So this is where you would check the settings before starting the new 2025 year and make sure that everything is correctly set up so this issue doesn't occur again. I also mentioned earlier that one of the steps was to check the data integrity. You can check the data integrity by going into the maintenance and directly on this page, check data integrity. You will have a page that looks like this that basically compares on the left side, you're going to have the account balances. On the right side, you're going to have the subledgers amounts. And everything should match between the two. As you can see, I don't have a lot of information in this file, but everything should match. I'm not going to be able to explain what could cause an issue on each of those lines, but I'm going to give you, at the end of the presentation, the resources so you can go and find the articles explaining all of those lines. But again, to open this page, you need to go into maintenance and check data integrity. So let me go back to the presentation. And now I'm going to move on to how to close the fiscal year. So it starts the same. You need to check the data integrity. You need to print your financial year-end reports. So those reports are the balance sheets, the income statements, all of those reports that you're going to require to just save the information. You will probably have to post year-end adjustments. So year-end adjustments are transactions that your accountant is giving to you, maybe to adjust the data integrity, maybe because they've noticed some issues in your file. So those are usually general journal entries that your accountant is going to ask you to post in your file. Obviously, if you need to involve your accountant, that might not be a step that you can do before starting the new year because you're not going to have to start working in January and maybe your accountant is only going to be available in 6 months. So this step can be done after starting the new year. Sage 50 allows you to post in the current year and one prior fiscal year. So when you're going to start the 2025 fiscal year, you will still be able to post or adjust transactions in 2024. So it is also valid if you need to create the 2025 paychecks to pay your employees, but you haven't finished entering invoices that you have to enter for December 2024, that is perfectly fine. You can start the new year and still be able to create your invoices for 2024. Then again, you need to make the backup before starting the new year, and then you will be able to start the new year. How to start the new year? So there's one exception to what I just said. You can post transactions in the prior year, but the exception is going to be for the payroll checks. We do not recommend you to start the new year if you haven't posted all of the 2024 payroll checks, because if you do start 2025 and then you post 2024 paychecks, you will notice that the payroll taxes will not calculate automatically anymore. As I said earlier, the calendar year, the payroll information in the file follows the calendar year. So if you start the new year, the taxes will only calculate automatically in the new year and not the prior year anymore. Again, I will never insist enough on this step, but before starting the new year, make sure you do a backup. And there's two situations. Maybe your fiscal year is the same as the calendar year, or they're different. In both cases, to start the new year, you need to go into maintenance, start new year. If your fiscal year is different from the calendar year, you will have this window that will appear where you can choose if you want to start the fiscal year or the calendar year. But if they are the same, the fiscal years follows the same date as the calendar year from January 1st to December 31st, the software will start both at the same time. So that is why you need to make sure if you start the new year 2025, make sure that you finished entering all of the 2024 payroll. And what this means, that it's at the new year, fiscal year and calendar year at the same time, it means that you only have to go through this window once. This is only once. You don't have to do this twice to start the calendar year and fiscal year separately. They will start at the same time. Okay, I'm going to talk a bit about the 2025-1 payroll update. So this update is going to be available by the end of the month. In it, you will have the new 2025 tax tables, as well as the new T4 requirements. So the CRA released new boxes for 2025, and those new boxes, those new codes will be available with the 2025-1 update. What this means is that you will have to install the updates before making your 2025 payroll checks. One thing to keep in mind, yes, the 2025-1 update updates the tax tables, but you will not update the employee's basic personal amounts. So this is a step that you have to do yourself. After installing the payroll update, you need to update the employee claims yourself. Let me show you how to do this by going back into the software. So once you installed 2025-1, you will have to go into maintenance and update employee claims. Once you're in there, you will see all of your employees. And this line right there under the tab will give the 2025 amount. So you will have the 2025 basic personal amount as of January 1st, 2025. And all you need to do is just select all of your employees and click on Update Basic Personal Amounts. It will tell you that everyone has been updated successfully, and it will update this column Basic Personal Amount in the software. And you need to do the same thing for the provincial amounts. So you need to click on Provincial, select everyone, Update. And if you have employees in different provinces, you will need to do it for each province. So you need to click on there and do the same thing. The amount at the bottom will adjust depending on the province you've selected. Okay. So let's talk a bit about the T4s and Relevé 1. The Sage 50 allows you to both print or create an electronic file for the T4s and the relevant one, and then you would have to upload manually those electronic files to the CRA website or to Revenu Quebec. So the way to create the electronic files is by going in the software under File, Import Exports, Electronic Filing, and export T4s or export Relevant 1 slips. What you need to remember is that Sage 50 does not connect to the CRA website or to Revenu Quebec. You need to go on those websites by yourself and upload the files that Sage 50 would have created. And as a reminder, if you have more than 5 employees, the government is asking you to upload them electronically. There's a fee if you send them. There's a fee by employee above 5 if you send them by the post. Also, we don't never know if Canada Post is still on strike. It will be required anyway to send them electronically. Now let's talk about the resources. So this is the main way to access any information about Sage 50, any articles to get help right away. This is where you should go to get the answer to all of your questions. So there are 3 ways to access the resource center. I showed you earlier when I did the installation, there's an icon that is created on your desktop that brings you directly to the resource center. From within the software, you can go into the help section, Sage support, and access the resource center. Or you can just type in your internet browser, you can just type sage.com/resources to get there. Again, this is the main page where you will have every answer Sage 50 related. Among those resources, I'm going to talk more in details about the year-end center. As I said at the beginning of this presentation, this is a website that was created specifically with the knowledge of all of the questions you're asking yourself at year-end on how to proceed with the year-end, what to do, what is required for you to do in the software. So you will have all of the information about how to install the payrolls. You have a section with the training. So as I said, I might have been a bit fast for some of the information. You will have videos and ebooks, everything in there that will help you with learning everything about the software. You have an update section where you will have all of the announcements. For instance, when we know the official date of when the 2025.1 update is going to be available, it will be announced on that portion of the page. And what I'm going to present you right now is the checklist. So we have checklist about starting the new calendar year, starting the new fiscal year, and preparing the T4s. So basically, everything I've just talked to you about, you will have pages and step-by-step information on what to do and how to do it in the software. So let me show you what it looks like. So if I go back in the software and I go into Help, Sage Support, Resource Center, it will open the page directly, and the information is going to be directly targeted to the software I'm using. The part I'm interested about right now is the year-end center, so let's go in there. So first off, what I would recommend right now is to bookmark this page. You can just add it in your bookmarks because that's probably a page where you can go back and check everything again. we took a lot of time in there to condense and enter all of the information about every questions we ever received on the year end. So definitely this is a place that you should check out and where you should read all of your information. So if I go into the new calendar year checklist, you're going to see everything I mentioned earlier. You're going to have step-by-step pages on what to do, how to do it, how to fix issues if you encounter any issues. And you can go through the steps by just clicking on next, or you can print the checklist directly. If I go on next, you will have articles explaining everything. Let's go back to the peer reports. That was maybe the tricky part of this presentation. You will have a complete explanation again of what is the peer reports and how to fix issues encountered on it. And this is going to be the same thing for everything else that you could ask yourself questions about in the software and about the year-end process in Sage 50. Everything is going to be there from this year, the government links also, because I mentioned the software doesn't connect to the Sierra website or the Releve One website, but you have the links in there available for you when you're ready to upload the electronic files to the government. So definitely this is a page that you should check out, bookmark, and go back to during all of this process at the end of the year. Okay, so thank you for listening to me. And now I'm gonna try to answer all of your questions. And so Dorcas, I'm ready for you to ask the questions that were sent to us.
Thank you, Ivana. Okay, so let's go straight to the question. I have quite some questions, so I will start with the first one. It says, if both Sage 50 2025 and 2024 are installed on the computer, is there an issue with using the 2025 update now?
No, not at all. If you have both softwares, you should use the 2025 one. The only thing you need to remember is once you've updated the file to 2025, you will not be able to use 2024 anymore. So you will only be able to open that file with the 2025 software.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is, he wants to know if you are going to send the presentation in PDF later.
We'll need to check, but I think so, yes. The presentation should be uploaded. And again, this meeting has been recorded and the video will be available.
Okay, the next one. Do we have to update 2025.0? I think that's what you wanted to say. And then 2025.1? Or can we wait and just update with 2025.1?
So I would recommend doing the 2025.0 now. And once we start 2025, install 2025.1. Why? Because, as I said, 2025.0 is a bigger installation. If you have multiple people working on the file, everyone will have to install 2025.0. It's a bit different with 2025.1, where it's just a patch. So it's a lot of an update that is a lot faster to install. The connection manager doesn't need to be updated or anything like this. And if there's a time crunch to create your paychecks, having 2025.0 already installed is going to help you install 2025.1 way faster. Even let's say if you need to involve your IT department or anyone like this, installing 2025.0 is probably when you will require them, not for 2025.1. It's really 25.1 is really just a patch installation for the tax tables.
Thank you, Ivana. So the next question is going to be, what if pay period straddle the calendar year bi-weekly pay period ends December 28th?
Yeah. So the transaction date is going to be the what's going to be important. So if the check date is on January 2nd, you should use the tax table 2025 because if the check date is in 2025, it will appear on the 2025 T4s. So even if the pay period is in December, the check date is going to be what matters to know what pay period to what, I'm sorry, what tax table to use.
Thank you, Ivana. So the next question. Peer report is unreliable. Make sure to manually check each employee CPP and EI deduction. I think this one wasn't a question. Is there something you want to add to that? Peer
I'm sorry, I'm
report
not
is
sure.
it's not actually a question.
So the peer report is only accurate if the pay period matches the number of paychecks that were given to the employee. If you have situations where the employee hasn't worked the full year, or maybe there was a bonus check that wasn't you hadn't anticipated at the beginning of the year there would be a bonus check, the peer report will not be accurate anymore, and that is why you shouldn't stress out too much about the peer report in cases like this because it will indicate issues. If you have any questions on those issues, the CRA is going to be the best resource for you because they will be able to tell you a proper answer about the actual amount that should have been deducted and remitted. But
Thank you, Ivana.
what should be on the T4s is the actual amount you've given to the employee and the actual amount that was remitted. So do not ever adjust paychecks that were already given and remitted.
Thank you, Ivana. So the next question is, when should we start the new calendar year, on December 31st or January 1st?
January 1st. just to be safe, because starting as soon as you start 2025, if you change your session date to 2025, the software will ask you to start the new year. So if you're still in working on December 2024 and need to have your session date to get help with the transaction dates more easily, you should stay in 2024. But as soon as you start working in 2025, you will need to start the new year to get a session date and transaction dates in 2025.
Thank you. So let's go. The next question is, after advancing the session to a new year, example 2025, if we need to print a check for 2024, can we do it?
Yes, you can print checks for 2024. It's just that you will not able to create the paychecks. Well, you will be able to create the paychecks, but not have the payroll check run. So it will be individual paychecks, and also not have the automatic payroll taxes. So if you need to print them, absolutely, you can reopen the window to print them. But if you need to have the payroll check run window to create them or the automatic tax tables, you will not be able to anymore.
Thank you. Is this update only required if you are using payroll?
No. So there's also changes in it to adjust a few things that were noticed with the 2025.0 update. So it is mainly for the tax tables. but we always require everyone. It is best if you always work on the latest version of the software to make sure that you have everything updated and everything, if there was adjustments in the background, everything corrected.
Thank you, Ivana. So I have another question. Is it possible to write a post-dated check, for example, January 1st, 2025 for rent, without rolling forward the year to 2025 during the year? Like I would like to issue some post-dated check and not think about them anymore. But I don't want to roll forward to 2025 and make that my current year because I still have lots of transactions in 2024 to process.
So that will depend of the edition of the software you're using to post-date transactions, but you can only post-date general journal entries. So if you have check to create for 2025, but require to still be in 2024, I wouldn't recommend it. I would still recommend starting the new year and then post transactions in 2024. You will be able to. If you really, really don't want to, it's going to be a bit more trickier. But the main thing, the main solution would be to create a copy of your file, create the check from the copy of your file. And then when you start the new year, re-enter that check in the main file that you're going to use. So that's going to be a lot more complicated. And because you're going to juggle between two files, then you need to make sure that you re-enter the proper information in it.
Thank you. So next question, is this update only required if you are using Payroll?
No, it's really for everyone. The major changes that everyone is going to see is going to be about the payroll information. But again, you should always work on the latest version of the software.
Thank you. Next question, what do I have to do if I'm going to upload 2025 on a new computer? I do not use the cloud.
So even if you're not use the cloud, the email address is going to be required. That said, so you will have on your new computer, you will have to install the software, get a backup of your file, create a backup of your file on the prior computer, find a way to move the file, the backup between the two computers. Usually you can just use a USB drive. So put that backup that you've created of your file on the USB drive, and then move it to the new computer and restore it from there.
Thank you. So the next question, how do I delete inactive employees in Payroll?
So you should, this is a step that should only be done if the employees haven't worked for your company in 6 years, because the CRA is requesting you to have 6 years of information. But they can request you information on your employees 6 years after they stopped working for you. But if you have older employees that are no longer for your company, that are switched to inactive, and you actually want to clear some space, you need to make sure that first they haven't all of the year-to-date information is at zero. There's no balances for the vacation. There's no balances for the advances or anything like this. And if everything is at zero and it's been more than 6 years, you will be able automatically to get the system to remove those employees. If the balances are not at zero, you will have to create an adjusting paycheck to zero out those amounts and post that adjusting paycheck at the oldest date possible. But that would be a step, that would be something that you would have to check with your accountant to make sure everything runs smoothly. And obviously, post it in a prior year, the adjusting paycheck, so you don't include it into your T4s, because that is not the amount that you would give the former employee. Okay. I hope
Thank you.
you're welcome. I hope that helps.
Thank you,
So,
Lena.
thank you. Unfortunately, this is the end of the time we had today. So thank you all for coming.